So we're talking at least 4 hours. He sat and watched me drink at my desk without saying anything. And it's like,
It'd be like waterfalling beverages and he would have bbeen fine with it. But,
like
end of the day, we're going to
like
have this
shots of tequila. like anyone want one? Like, who's in
got
for
a
this
beer
round?
bong here? Anybody?
Right.
Anybody?
It's
All right.
like,
We got 3 more hours till 5.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
Yet again, Serena and I have color coordinated without any communication. I think this happens more than it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Like where we end up wearing the same, that we get on the, I'm like, oh, we've picked the same color again.
Well,
Fun and
it shows
games.
how our wardrobes are in the same, like.
Right. Yeah. And also just how like our brains kind of work the same way. The amount of times, I can't remember where it was, something recently where I said something, we were in a group of people and like you like shouted over like, get out of my head. It's like, I don't think everyone else is a bit like, what? And I'm like, no, it's cozy here. It's just always my response. But yeah, we very much are, suddenly realizing maybe my mic needs to come a little closer. Yeah, I think we're in each other's brains half the time. I mean, I don't know whether we've actually said this before, but like I call Serena my backup brain and vice versa. So it's like if like I'm having like struggling with words or having like this, like, and Serena finishes my sentence. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, she's interrupting you. I'm like, no, that's my backup brain kicking in, because like, she knows what I'm saying, even if I'm not entirely sure at this moment in time.
Yeah, I saw the smoke coming out of her ears 4 words ago, so I knew.
Yeah.
I had to get in there.
Speaking of which, like, this is a random aside. I had a very cool moment this morning. So a friend of ours went to Miami yesterday and got a bunch of stuff for us for our Christmas celebration. And because yes, it's still pre-Christmas here as we're recording. I know it won't necessarily be when you're listening to it. And it was really funny. Because a lot of the stuff was frozen, they had to get dry ice in order to get it back. And then I realized there was still some in the bag this morning. So I emptied it out into my shower and also there's a bunch of ice in there as well. And I was like, it was like cool. I had like smoke all coming out of my shower this morning. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, I'm feeling all witchy and woo woo right now. I'm like, I'm living my best alphabet fantasy. So
Do you ride around on the broom?
I mean, I'm not averse to it. I think a broom's a great mode of transport personally. I mean, it doesn't take up too much space, go anywhere you like, natural materials. Like I'm down. But anyway, so today we want to talk about, like, we kind of like jumping off the back of the last episode. And I'll explain kind of where the inspiration for this episode came first. And then we'll like look at, well, how is this relevant to what we were talking about last time? And this all got prompted because I went to get myself a kombucha to drink, as I often do when we're recording, and I put a koozie on it. If you don't know what a koozie is, because I wouldn't have known what a koozie was before I came to the tropics, it's like a little jacket for your drink, so that one, it stays a little cooler for longer, but also so you don't get condensation over everything when you're drinking it. Yeah, it's funny, like koozies are completely everywhere here, and I'd never heard of a koozie before I came here.
You travel with them, like, it's like you have your travel koozie.
Absolutely. I have one in my purse normally. Anyway, so what I realized was, if you're watching on the video, looking at this, like, a lot of the time when I'm drinking kombucha, you can tell I'm drinking kombucha because the bottle looks different. But this actually looks like it could be a beer bottle. or a cider bottle or what have you. And especially because the koozie covers up the label, you can't see it, like, in just in case anybody is questioning me. It is actually kombucha I have in here. I'm not like finding a way of like sneaking a drink while we're recording. And it reminded me of an incident that happened when I very first started my first kind of big major job. I was doing a year-long contract. I was taking a year out from my university degree so that when I left university, I would come out with a degree and a year's experience under my belt. That was why I was doing it. And I had one of the worst first weeks. I'm somebody who, like, if I'm starting a new job, I always used to be like, made sure I was early, I was punctual, I was always like completely put together. And I had the worst first few days when I started this job. So the very first day, there was a huge traffic incident on the main road that I was taking to get to work, and like delayed for hours and hours and hours. I should have been there probably an hour early. I ended up getting there, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes late or something on my first day, which is not a good first impression. And it's not something how I would have wanted to do things. So the second night, because I'd had such issues with the traffic in one direction, I actually went and stayed. I think I was staying with my aunt and uncle at the time. So it was like, I come from my aunt and uncle the first day. The second night, I actually stayed with my boyfriend who lived in a completely different area. And I was like, well, maybe this will be easier. Same thing happened on day 2. So there's a major traffic incident then. And again, I ended up being late for work. I don't think it was quite as late as the first day, but I was like, oh my God, this is just not me. And I was really stressing about it. So day 3 comes, I'm like, I am not being late on my third day. I'm going to make sure that I am there early. So I decided to get the train in because I figured that the trains might be a little bit more reliable. And I made sure I was going to be there like super early so that I didn't have to worry about any delays or anything. So I got the train in on my super early train. I didn't realize I got off one stop too early, and I was a good couple of miles down the road from where I was working. And there wasn't another train coming past anytime soon. There was no way to get a taxi or anything. So I literally had to run down this like massive, it was in like a huge industrial park as well. So I had to run down like in all my work, my like business formal attire, like running down to make sure I didn't get there. Now I got there on time, but in order to get that train, to make sure I was there early, which I wasn't actually, I was like maybe 10 minutes early. I planned on being there like an hour early. That didn't happen because note to self, make sure you know what your stop is before you get off the train. So
it's usually training 101, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I knew and apparently I didn't. So there we go. So anyway, but to get on that train, I had to get up at the crack of dawn. Like I think I'd had to get up with something stupid like 4:30 a.m. to make sure that I got that train. And I was like, this is because I was planning on moving to the area, but I hadn't found anywhere to live yet. So I was like commuting while I was like looking for somewhere. So I had to get up stupid early. So on my lunch break, I went out and this is at the point in my life where I drank caffeinated beverages on the regular. And I was exhausted at this point, and stressed because I was like wanting to make a good impression at this job, because the whole point, I was coming out with experience and a good like resume and I was going to say testimonials. That's not the word I'm looking for, is it? No. Reviews. That's not the right word. What do you call it when you get like recommendations? Anyway, whatever. References. Thank you. From Spot the Girl.
Your HR assistant.
So when I went out for lunch, I went and got myself something to eat, and I got myself a can. I think it was Red Bull. It was something that was like caffeine heavy, caffeine and sugar heavy, I believe, was the combo. And I'm like, I just need something to get myself through the rest of the day. I mean, I wouldn't touch Red Bull with a 10-foot barge pole these days, but at that point in my life, it was something I was more than happy to consume. So anyway, towards the end of the day, my new boss called me into his office. Now, I will preface this with, this guy was an unprecedented asshole as a manager. Like, he was hands down, and still to this day, the worst manager I have ever experienced in my life. Like abusive, like he would, I've told stories about him on previous podcast episodes. There's stories about him in the program. I mean, he gave us a lot of content, so I suppose in some respects he was helpful. But he was like, just
the
like
assholes in our life often do.
Absolutely. Ain't that the truth? So he was the one who was like when you call, like the first day he was like, you don't work for the company, you work for me between the hours of 9 and 5:30. I am God, like that kind of asshole. Like he was just an incredibly insecure man, and it's so interesting looking back on it now, and I'm like, oh, I see all those needs. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I'm glad I'm out of that one. The funny thing was, he was an arsehole to me the entire time I worked for him, and then when I left, like was sending me, I got a huge beautiful Christmas hamper from him one year. Like he wanted me to go back and work for him. I'm like, what makes you think I would ever do that to myself? Anyway, I digress. The third day, towards the end of the day, he pulls me into his office, and he said, this is your third day. I'm getting very concerned about some of the behavior that I'm seeing. And I obviously assume that he's talking about me being late. I said, I'm so sorry. Like there's been something every single one of these days. Today, it was completely on me. I should have been here an hour early. I got off on the wrong stop. That's on me. The other days, like it was just like road incidents. Like I literally physically couldn't get here because the roads were closed down. But I'm dedicated and I'm committed. Don't worry, I will be here. I will make sure I am on time from this point forward. You will not have to discuss this with me again. And he said, that's not my biggest concern. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, what have I done? Like I haven't done anything else. I was like, I thought I'd been doing great. I was performing well. I was doing all the things I was supposed to be doing. And he said, we need to talk about the drinking at your desk thing. And I was like, sorry, the what? And he was like, I don't feel that it's appropriate that you've had a can of cider on your desk this entire afternoon. And in my head, I'm like, you know, like those the memes you get with like all the calculations that are happening in front of somebody's face. Like that's what I'm doing. I'm like, what is he talking about? I don't have a can of cider on my desk. Wouldn't even occur to me to drink at work. Like wouldn't even be a thing. I mean, I know that some people might like put a little something into their mug that can't be seen to get through. This was never me. I mean, koozies would have made
long history in the casino and restaurant industry. I've seen some fucking things.
Exactly.
Claire is not that person.
That is not me. Never has been, never will be. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was like, I can see it from here. Now, the other thing to explain to you about this guy is that not only was he a complete arsehole as a manager and actually as a person, as I discovered, like that, it just seemed to be who he was. He was also, what's the word?
I got lots of them.
I mean, I have lots of them as well. I'm trying to think of the one that kind of accurately represents what I'm trying to communicate now. He was somebody who saw himself as superior to everybody else. There were certain things he didn't do because that's what the other people did, kind of the stores he wouldn't go into. But what this meant was he actually had a very sheltered life. He didn't really know a lot about what was going on in the zeitgeist, what was like what was the in things. He knew very little actually about like life. Like, I mean, he was good at his job, I believe. But it was, he didn't understand like the cultural things that were relevant at the time. So I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't have a can of cider on my desk. And he was like, I can see it from here. It's right there. And I was like, are you talking about the Red Bull? And he was like, yeah. He said, you've been drinking it all afternoon. I was like, that's not an alcoholic drink. That's a caffeine drink. It's like a equivalent of having a cola on my desk. Like it's like, I mean, a little bit more of other things in there as well, but all legal, and none of them are things that should impair my ability to do my job or to function. Like, and he's like, no, that's cider. I was like, no, it's a caffeine drink. It's a sugary caffeine drink. And I went and grabbed the can and I was like, look, there's no alcohol in there. Now, the other thing is, because he was an asshole leader, is that this man was incapable of admitting that he was wrong. So I was in what you would call a no-win situation at this point, because he had gone so far down this road that there really wasn't any turning back. But the fact that there was no turning back meant that he was still treating me as somebody who had been drinking on the job. So I'm like, look, and he said, well, just don't do it again. I'm like, I didn't do it the first time. Like this is not a thing. I was so convinced. And now bear in mind, I was like 19, 20 years old. So I was very young. I also needed this job because I needed this to get to complete my degree. So it wasn't something I could be like, this guy's a dick. I'm done, out. Mm-hmm. I was like, I got to figure out a way of making this work. Yeah, but he just kept saying, he was like, well, fine, but just don't do it again. He must have said, just don't do it again at least 4 times. I'm like, in order to not do it again, I had to have done it the first time. I didn't drink at my, I said, I own the fact that I've been late for a few days. That is completely on me. And I should have made sure I planned my journey to make sure that even if I hit traffic, it shouldn't have negatively impacted me the way that it did. And I should have still been here on time. But this isn't it. Like, this is not a thing. Like, I didn't do this thing. And the interesting thing about me, and this is like the key thing with this guy, was he was so arrogant that he believed he knew better than everyone at all times. He paired that with always assuming. So he always assumed that he was right, and he always assumed that he knew best, which put us in a really difficult situation. Because also, bear in mind, I didn't really recognize this at this point in my journey, but this is a new job. He's on trial as much as I am right now. He doesn't realize it, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but I'm like, I'm sizing up whether or not I can trust you. I'm sizing up how this relationship is going to work as a manager and employee. I'm making some decisions in this about realizing that this guy is not somebody who is safe around at all. Like, he's not somebody who I can trust. It's not someone who, if I point out, like, I literally showed him the facts, which are, there is no alcohol in this. And he still couldn't accept that I hadn't been drinking on the job. Now, the issue with assuming is that what ends up happening is that we react to our assumptions, and we tend to judge based on our assumptions. And a lot of the time when we do that, a lot of the time we don't get it right. And the problem is, when we don't get it right, what ends up happening normally is that multiple needs get negatively impacted. So in this situation, my security need firing off, because I'm like, they could like write me up for drinking on the job, even though I haven't been, but like, they could take me through like formal, like, disciplinary action, because that is a disciplinary offense. It's not what I did, but if he believes I did, and I can't prove to him otherwise, even though the evidence is in front of his face, like, what am I going to do? My value need is out the window, because obviously my opinion, or the facts in this case, didn't matter compared to his. Personal power out the window. He has the power in this situation. I don't have the power. Emotion, experience, and expression all over the shop, because I'm like, I'm now stressed and I'm anxious, and I'm there's so much going on. Acknowledgement need is being compromised because he's not acknowledging what I'm saying. He's still carrying on the track that he was on. I mean, there's so many needs, and obviously this is based on the thing that pays my bills. So my foundation function need is at risk in this situation as well. And so through those assumptions, my needs have been dramatically compromised in that moment in time. Not only that, but his needs are being compromised in that moment in time, because even just value need, him seeing himself as superior to me and acting on that, he is devaluing me. He is dehumanizing me in the process. He's disconnecting from my humanity. And in doing so, he's disconnected from his humanity. Honestly, based on my experience with him, I don't think you know what connection to his humanity would look like. He came up and punched him in the face. But he's definitely disconnected in that moment. So he's actually compromised his own needs, but also as a leader, you need to have the trust of your team, because if your team don't trust you, they're not going to work. You're not going to work as well together as a team. as you would do if they did. So it's actually compromising his needs in a number of different ways, because also when he made other missteps, like later on, there was no grace. I had no grace to give him at that point. I'm like, yeah, no, don't look at me to back you up or to help you out in this situation, because you've given me no reason to at this point in time. All of this because he made an assumption. Now, I mean, it wasn't prior to the days of the like Google and what have you. I mean, he could have looked up the can like online, but he knew, so he didn't need to do that. Like he didn't need to do that because he knew I was drinking at my desk. So, and the thing that would have made all the difference here is coming at it from curiosity. If he'd sat me down in that moment and said to me, I'm curious, like, what's that drink that you have in your desk at the moment? And I could have been like, oh, it's Red Bull. Have you never heard of that? Oh, no, it's just, and I'm like, oh, it's a caffeine, like sugary caffeine drink. I was feeling a bit tired, so I wanted something to kind of get me through the rest of the day. That conversation could have gone so many different ways. I mean, it could have actually created a moment of connection, because if he'd been like, oh my God, I thought it was an alcoholic beverage for a second then. Oh my, I'm so sorry. I've been sitting here the entire afternoon thinking you've been drinking at work, but actually you've been trying to make sure that you've been performing better at work because you were feeling tired. That's hilarious. Like, it could have provided that moment, but it didn't. It created a fracture third day in to this job. I mean, in fairness, he fractured it on day one when he was like, I'm God, you work for me, not for the company, all of that. Like, I'm like, oh, I see who
How did I
are.
ever get so lucky to work for you?
Right, exactly. But every one of those fractures created this situation in which there was no, I mean, and obviously, I mean, he made no effort whatsoever to make any repairs to that relationship. And he continually made further fractures as it went down. But so like it was never going to go in a good direction with this. But if he come at it with curiosity, it could have been something entirely different. And looking at what we were talking about in the last episode with the scenario where we were down and Serena was in tears and I was holding space for her and trying to support her with what was going on. The guy who said, oh, don't cry, no tears. He assumed why you were crying, because I don't believe that if he genuinely thought somebody very close to her has died and she's crying because of that, he'd have gone, don't cry, sort of thing. Like, it was like, right. And it was very jovial how he did it as well. It wasn't like oh, don't cry. Like, it was like a nudge nudge wink wink kind of thing. Don't cry, punch on the arm, like
there's always tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
Not for my uncle, there's not.
Exactly. And so I think, but because of that assumption, that's part of the reason he came in with that approach. And I think if instead he'd come at it with curiosity, I mean, not even necessarily towards us, but just he'd been curious about the situation, being like, okay, what's going on here? Okay, she looks kind of upset. Okay, she looks like she's kind of supporting her. I don't know. There could have been any one of a million different scenarios that could have been creating that situation. But he made an assumption that it was one that wasn't worthy of crying and therefore felt entitled to tell someone else not to cry in a situation where it was perfectly reasonable response. And so this is why, I mean, I don't know whether you have it over here, but like when in the UK, like how you remember the spelling of the word assume is it makes an ass out of you and me. And
yep, we have that ass over here too.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we've got assholes on both sides of the pond. But the funny thing about this is that it does that, but it also compromises the needs of you and me as well. Like, it's going to negatively impact needs across the board when you come in and assume, because when you assume and you act on that assumption, you're already like, it's like you're at a fork in the road when you're making that assumption. And rather than checking which path you're actually on, you go careering down one of the tracks and the other person's like halfway down the other street going, oh, where's she going? Oh, okay. And like, you're like way down there. And it's like, and it's like, well, you're going the wrong way. That's not you got to come back here, and now you got to come back, and then you got to come down. Like, this is not helpful to anyone at this point in time. And the problem is that not only does it negatively impact your needs, but it's going to have this ripple effect on the people around you, because a lot of the time those assumptions will in and of themselves compromise the needs of the people you're making the assumptions about. And in doing that, it will compromise the roots of the relationship, because it actually undermines trust in those moments. Because rather than finding out what's going on, we've acted on something that we actually don't really have a huge amount. A lot of the time we don't have a huge amount to base it on. It's like it's a snap decision based on a tiny piece of information, when there's like this entire picture. It's like, I don't know whether did you have the TV show Catchphrase here in the US?
It sounds familiar, but not one that I can really remember.
It was a quiz show in the UK in like the 80s and 90s, and it was basically, it was like visual representations of like common phrases. So it would be like oh god, I gotta try and think of one now. So like, I don't know why this is the one that came to mind. So if like the guy in the thing was putting on a jacket that said Ritz on it, it would be like putting on the Ritz. So it was like these like visual clues. And then at the end of the each of the rounds, what they would have is that they would have this this master catchphrase where you had to push a buzzer, and it would select one of the squares on the screen, and it would reveal just that one square. And you had to try and figure out what the phrase was with only this tiny part of the puzzle. And this is often what happens with assumptions, when we see this and it looks like one thing, but there's a whole big picture behind that we're not seeing. And without that, oh, I got a little bit excited there, hit the podcast mic. Without that information, we're not actually able to act in a way that's in alignment with what's best for us and for everybody else's needs in the situation. And so when we do this, we compromise everyone's needs. If we came with curiosity, it would take it in a different direction. So we just had to pause briefly because our little furry friend at Serena's End needed a little assistance. But I think that one of the things that I think is that I find interesting about the whole kind of assuming versus curiosity is how people approach us. Like, a lot of people don't know what we do, have no clue what we do for a living. And they see us in one particular aspect of our lives. Like, they see us out like ferrying around, blowing bubbles, like giving free mum hugs out, and they think that that's who we are. That's the entirety of who we are. And the number of people that, like, when they finally find out that, like, when I'm just like, oh, I don't think you know what I do for a living. Oh no, what do you do for a living? I'm a human behavior specialist. And you can see their like jaw hit the ground of like, sorry, you're a what? But because there's no curiosity about art. There's an assumption that what you see is the entirety of what somebody is. And because we've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work on this aspect of our lives, we haven't been shouting loud about it. We haven't been promoting a huge amount about what we're doing, because we're busy getting things ready in the back end to be able to do that. But as a result, I think people just see this one little sliver of our reality and go, that's who they are. And I'm like, that's a very small part of who we are. There's a whole lot more you have no idea about.
I'm like a disco ball, honey. All sorts of facets.
Right?
Some are not so shiny.
I mean, the sparkle might be a warning as opposed to a celebration. But
right. It's different sparks, so to speak. This is something that has always gone up my ass sideways, to be quite honest. And Claire knows what I'm going to say. There's a phrase that actually stopped me from proceeding with social media. Like, anybody who's like friends with me on social media knows that I really don't post. People see what I do because of mostly tags. Me. Sometimes I'll share like what our organization is doing. Yeah. But I don't give people insight into my life anymore. I am not on Instagram, TikTok, any of the things, because when Joe and I were traveling the first time around, we took about 2 years and we were traveling on and off, and I was posting about our travels and these experiences that we were having and all of like this depth. And like, yeah, I was posting pretty pictures and I was posting us happy because like nobody, like at that point in my life, I never even thought of the wholeness. Not that I think that I would have, but like of sharing, like, oh yeah, here's the picture of me sitting like half a mile down the road in a parking lot. Joe and I like sitting so we can see each other, but we're not speaking. Like we're just making each other sure each other are safe with eye contact. But like nobody wants to see a fucking picture of that. So like,
Right.
and you don't want to
Yeah.
share those vulnerable parts of your life. So I'm
Yeah.
like, here's this beautiful setting. Here's this thing. Here's the experience I'm having. People are like, oh, must be nice. Yeah. Yeah, certain parts are nice. Certain parts are really scary. Certain parts are really intense. You know, I'm traveling all these places, but we're sleeping in Walmart parking lots every night, eating, you know, cold ravioli out of a can, like for months on end. Like,
right.
is
Yeah,
that the
you don't
nice
post that.
like,
You post about the nice meal that you'd have out like once in a blue moon, but you don't post
right.
every night you're having ravioli out of a can.
And I think at one point I did. I posted a picture, like we actually treated ourselves to using the propane one time. But at that point, we just had like a can on top of like the propane and we were heating up some chili in a can and like dinner. And people are like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, no, ha, 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 ha. This is my life.
This is
like,
it. Yes.
like you make choices in it. And it would always piss me off that people would assume that everything is great. Like while all this was happening, my mom was going through her cancer battle. So like I had all of that on like the other side. Oh, life is perfect for you. Yeah. Really, it is? Like, please explain how it is. Because nobody came with curiosity. How is it? Like, and it's interesting. I think it's because of who I surround myself with now and who I actually choose to engage with. More people ask me now, like, how is it traveling? And I'm honest. Like, I've never been a sugarcoater. Like, that has never been my MO. And I'm like, some parts are great. Some parts are absolutely disastrous. Like, it works for us. We've kind of found a rhythm and a balance. But, like, and that's with anything in life. Like, you can't, you just assume that somebody's life is what's presented on social media. Like, come on, we all know that story. And it's like you have these relationships, these beautiful pictures of family and perfect bliss and all this stuff. And then they get divorced and you're like, I think you mentioned that in the last episode. It's like, oh my God, what happened? Well, you assumed by looking at these pictures that there was no humanity, that like nothing ever went wrong because they're posting the smiley pictures. Like, I think that sometimes that is. Oh, go on. I think that sometimes the assumption removes the humanity out of, like, we just assume, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, these people obviously can't have human moments because they're posting on how great things are. Like,
right. And we like social media is an interesting one because like a lot of the time, the reason that people are posting the things they are is because they're trying to get their needs met through what they're posting. They're trying to be seen as having the perfect relationship, or they're trying to be seen as having the perfect life. I mean, it's so interesting. Like, I mean, it was funny. Like, we saw somebody last night who came up and like asked me about a person I've not been in a relationship with for over a year now, and they're like, so what about? I'm like, oh no. Yes, definitely not in that relationship. That was awful in so many ways. And they were like, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm not like, I know it's not good for a relationship to post all the harmful things that somebody's doing, but that doesn't mean to say they're not necessarily happening. And I mean, it's like, and the same thing, like living where like I live and where we used to live, like where Serena used to live. When you live on a tropical island, people assume that your life is all rainbows and butterflies. I mean, in fairness, it's Key West. We do have a lot of rainbows and we do have a lot of butterflies here. So, I mean, that's true. But we also have hurricanes that come our way, and we also have some real challenges with living here. Like it's like you get a power cut, like anywhere else, it's like a blip and the next minute it's on. Here you can be without power for hours. And like, not that that's like a big thing, but people take a look at, they see one thing, and what ends up happening is that they create the story around the thing, and they go, oh, this must be this, and this must be that, and this must be the other. And it's like, yeah, but is it though? Because it's actually probably not. And the thing is, you don't have to be, when we talk about coming at things with curiosity, yes, you want to come with curiosity in terms of sometimes actually like asking somebody, like, as I said, like the example with the guy, the asshole boss that I used to have. Like, if he just said, like, I'm curious, like, what's that drink? Like, I don't recognize that drink that you have on your desk. Like, what is that? The situation would not have been a situation. I mean, it would have been in his mind because he probably would have been stewing on it for the last 3 hours. But like, it wouldn't have been like, and he could have asked me the moment he saw it, like the first time he saw it and saw it on my desk, he could have been like, oh, I'm like, I don't know that one. Like, what is that drink? It would have solved, it would have like cured the whole thing. Well,
just like in retrospect, like, yeah, he let you drink the whole afternoon and then called you in at the end of the day about it. Like,
I went out at lunch. He called me into his office at 5 o'clock. So we're talking at least 4 hours. He sat and watched me drink at my desk without saying anything. And it's like,
you'd be like waterfalling beverages and he would have been fine with it. But, you know, like, end of the day, we're going to have this
shots of tequila. Like, anyone want one? Like, who's in
got
for
a beer
this round?
bong here? Anybody?
Right.
Anybody? All right.
Like,
we got 3 more hours till 5.
It's obscene. But like, because in his situation, he didn't like to ask questions because from his perspective, if he was asking a question, it meant that he didn't know. And he saw not knowing as being less valuable. And therefore, he saw like if he had to ask a question of somebody else, he would see that like that's a negative consequence to his value need, rather than I'm learning something which is actually a positive benefit to your value need. But it's all in like how you're approaching it. Like, it reminded me, like, while I was there, I did a lot of work in like spreadsheets and stuff while I was there. And I use these things called pivot tables. If you are a spreadsheet person, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, you won't, and you really don't need to know about it. It's like just a way of organizing the data. And I had to use it a lot because of what I was doing. And I remember that at one point he was like, all you're in your pivot tables. Like, I don't know how to use pivot tables. Like, because he had to admit that he didn't know how to, because he couldn't do what I was doing. And when I left, I actually put together like a how-to on pivot tables. I did it all myself from scratch. Took hours and hours to create this. And I was like, I can't give something to him and then not something to the other people that I've worked with. So I actually bought them little things that I knew, like little tokens, nothing that was expensive. And he threw his toys out the pram because like he was the only one who got something that hadn't cost any money. I'm like, no, that costed my time. That's way more valuable to me than that is. But okay, honey, you do you. Like, so like, even like he didn't see the, like his perception of what was valuable felt very skewed in general. But I know that he thought if he had to ask, that he didn't know. And if he didn't know, that somehow reflected badly on him. When in actual fact, I think that that's a strength. I think that being willing to ask the question, being willing to say, I don't know, let me find this out, shows a sense of security in yourself. Like, it's like it's a sign of somebody who isn't insecure, who can say, actually, I'm not sure about that. Let me go find that out. So when we talk about curiosity, sometimes we're literally talking about asking a question. Sometimes when we're talking about curiosity, you don't have to ask the question. You just have to be curious in your mind about what else could be going on here. What maybe am I not seeing? What do I not know about this situation? Now, you don't have to have the definitive answers on all of those things, but even just like having that question, asking yourself, like I'm curious, like what else could be going on here? What are the other possibilities? And like, I've made this assumption. What are the other possibilities? What it does is it broadens out from, and it's likely to mean that you're going to respond differently. So for example, one of the big shifts that I've made in my life that has made such a huge difference to my relationships is if somebody is late, if somebody doesn't do what they say they're going to do, if somebody is not where they say they're going to be when they say they're going to be there, past me, pre-needs me, would have made an assumption in my head. I would like, it's clearly not that important to them, or like they're prioritizing something else, or they just couldn't be bothered, or I would get irritated by it, like where the hell are you kind of thing. I wouldn't necessarily say where the hell are you, but like I'd be like, where are you? Because they're supposed to be somewhere and they're not there. So where are you seems like an appropriate response. But there was an energy behind that. There was an attitude behind that, because my assumption is that my brain is going, you're not where you're supposed to be, and you're supposed to be here. Therefore, you're doing something wrong because you're not where you're supposed to be. Until I started becoming curious. And as I said, I didn't necessarily ask the direct question, but instead I became, well, maybe they hit traffic. Maybe something's happened in their lives. Maybe they've got some bad news. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other. Maybe they've got some stuff going on that I'm not aware of. And all of these maybes have led me now, in almost every single time this comes up, I ask one question. Are you okay? That's the first question I ask, because my first assumption is, I want to make sure you're okay. And yeah, maybe you didn't set your alarm, or maybe you did oversleep, or maybe you did make some not so great choices, which have caused you to be late for the thing that you're supposed to be here for. But maybe something's happened that's beyond your control. Maybe there's something that's going on that I'm not aware of. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you've had an accident where you've fallen over and hurt your leg. There could be a million reasons why somebody isn't there. And coming with this kind of this energy of curiosity, coming from that perspective of curiosity, it invites connection, and it invites the building of trust way more than assumptions ever do. And I mean, like, you've seen that difference in me. Like, you've seen like me go from one to the other, like, and like, how does it feel? Like the difference between like, where are you and are you okay?
I mean,
a little different, right?
Yeah, it's a lot different. And I mean, the second that there's like, when you would come at the attitude, like, where are you? It's like our natural reactions be like, what do you mean? Where the fuck? Like,
yes,
there's stuff
defensive.
going on. Like, there's almost a defensiveness because the energy that it was sent, like, and Claire and I are very energetically sensitive. So we can read a text message and be like, oh, like, the energy behind that is off.
Yeah.
I get that that's not necessarily everybody's experience with, you know, that kind of thing. But there was like it was almost accusatory. Like, it wasn't, where are you because I'm concerned? And there might have been a little bit of an element of that, but it was definitely more, where are you? This was the thing.
Right.
Why haven't you preemptively said something? And now it's like, you know, there are times where like life will happen, and it's always, are you okay? And it's like, shit, I didn't know the time, or this happened and then this happened. Because you know how life be lifing, like all of a sudden, you know, you've fallen into a rabbit hole and you come back out an hour later and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, you know, my rabbit was gone with his clock. Like, I had no clue what time it was. But it feels a lot different, and it creates so much more connection. And it also kind of invites the, like, I used to come from a place, like, if I was running late, it's like, no, I'm just going to get there and then I'll discuss it later. Now I'm more proactive in being like, hey, I'm looking at the time. I think I can get there on time, and this is happening right now, so I might be a few minutes late. It's like the non-assumption on one end is creating the invitation on the other end for like these assumptions to not really be a thing, if that makes sense. Like, we talk about them before we can assume.
Right. Well, and I think that what ends up happening is, though, when you come at it from that place of curiosity, as I said, it builds trust and it builds connection. And what that does is it invites more of that connection. It invites more it invites vulnerability. It invites the, because you're far more likely to share with somebody who's coming with concern and curiosity than someone who's coming with some kind of an attitude, or this this feeling of like you've done something wrong. And so because of
or the
that,
assumption that they know the story.
Exactly. And so I think that what happens in that is that when that happens, the person on the receiving end of it going, oh, this person really cares about me. Oh, I care about them. So I want to make sure that I'm also communicating with them so that they understand what's going on. And because that way they feel important. So it's like, it invites more of this communication. And the kind of communication that happens is completely different. Like when you're coming from that assumptive space, it's like, it shuts down communication because, as Serena says, it creates defensiveness, or sometimes it's not even defensiveness. Like sometimes it creates animosity because it's like, you obviously know nothing about me because you are assuming this. Like there is a whole lot more going on that you obviously aren't aware of and don't seem to really care about, don't seem very interested in. Well, in which case, like, why would I then want to connect more with somebody who is making assumptions that are actually detrimental to the connection between us? When you start to come with curiosity and that cultivates that connection, you want to do more to cultivate it yourself.
I have a thought. I know you could see the thought, and I'm trying desperately to like grab it back into my head. I think that so many connections are missed due to assumption, and like down here is a great example. Everybody has a story in general, like full stop. Down here, there are some book-worthy stories. Like there's a melting pot of people, so you get these experiences. And I was actually just taking a class from somebody the other day, and there wasn't any assumption on anything. It was like I was just kind of getting to know this person, and I could have easily come up with a story in my head. However, there was a curiosity that I approached our conversation with. And what I found out, I never could have even fathomed that was the experience that they had. And I'm like, wow. And when we left it, we both felt closer. Like it was an unspoken thing, but we had shared because there wasn't this assumption of like, oh, I see this amount of you, and so that means, you know, I put this peg in this hole, and it goes in this hole, and it goes in this hole. It's like, oh fuck, you don't even deal with holes. Like, wow. Like it really does create this different level of connection. And that's, you know, so often we see somebody and we just assume based on what they look like, what their job is, what their friend group is, or take any sliver of any aspect of somebody's life, make an assumption based on that. And I can almost guarantee you're going to be like, in totality, you don't have it right. Like,
right. Well, I mean, you say like, it's like it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Like if you take one single piece of a jigsaw puzzle and create in your mind what you think the picture is going to be based on that one tile, that one piece, chances are that's not going to be reflective of what the actual picture looks like. And we miss out on so much when we assume, because we pigeonhole people, or we put them in boxes and we go, oh, that's that kind of person. And I love it when I kind of have a sense that I kind of understand or know something of who somebody is, and then I find something about them and I'm like, oh my god, I love that. Like that, I didn't know that about you. And it blossoms and opens out. And it's the reason that, like, I mean, we've always said that questions, with the exception of the episode where there's the dark side of questions, which if you haven't read it. What is it with me and reading podcasts?
Get yourself a book. I think
the
universe is trying to tell you something.
Yeah, I need to read, obviously. If you haven't listened to it, we'll put the link in the show notes. But generally speaking, questions are incredibly helpful. They're incredibly supportive. And it's really interesting how, like, I ask questions as my job. That's literally what I do for a living, is that I spend my entire life asking questions. And yes, I do teach and I share other things, but so often when I'm helping somebody, it's like I'm creating a sequence of questions to help them figure out whatever it is that's right for them. But it's really interesting how few people ask questions, just generally. Even just like, I mean, I have spent time with people I've not spent a lot of time with over the last, I don't know, 6 months since I've been back in the US after being in the UK for a bit. So many people don't ask questions. Like I'll get together with somebody and I'll ask them, oh, how about this? What's going on with this? And I'll ask them the things I know to ask, because that's how you cultivate a connection. That's how a conversation works. It's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And there are a lot of people who just share things. It's like they're throwing stories at each other, and it's like, here's some information. No, here's some information. No, here's some information. It's like, okay, that's one way of communicating. But if you invite that communication, you ask a question that like allows somebody to open up, and then they do the same thing for you. It's like, oh, you have an interest in me. Okay. Which cultivates more of an interest in you. Like it creates this kind of blossoming of these relationships. But so many people don't know how to do that, aren't practiced in doing that, don't give a shit about it. Like they don't want to answer the question because they don't really care what the answer is. They're just there to hang out in the same space. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to cultivate closer connections, if you want to build community, like even if you're not looking to cultivate a close relationship with somebody, if you're looking to cultivate community, which, let's be honest, these days we need community more than ever. And the only way you can create community is by creating connection. Curiosity is often a pathway to connection, whereas assumption is often a pathway to disconnection. And so not only does it compromise in terms of your needs and the other person's needs, it actually will also compromise the needs of your relationships. And as I said, whether that's close relationships, intimate relationships, friendships, family relationships, or just relationships within the local community, the more curiosity you come with, the more you're going to cultivate those connections. And the more you cultivate those connections, the more rich those relationships will be.
I want to make a quick mention. You've said some words that kind of triggered off a little
ding, ding, ding.
Pinging right off the brain. Yep, reference the brain. Now I don't know what was in it. Kind of going, a little throwback to our last episode of None of Your Business. When you're making assumptions of somebody, check into your needs. Like we said in the last episode, why are you doing this? And if you are not doing this because you have a genuine, what about, it's so nuanced, and I realize as I'm saying it's super nuanced, so I'm probably just going to say it, and then I'll let Claire kind of take the nuance out of it. Yeah, but why are you curious? What is the purpose of your curiosity? Is it to create connection? Is it to learn more about somebody? Is it just so you're in the know? Is it so that you can fulfill your needs? Because there's a lot of times where we assume, and it's none of our fucking business. None of your business. None of your business to even assume what is going on in somebody's life. And I think so often, and I've been guilty of it myself, so often we feel this entitlement to be in the know about what's happening, and that's just not the case. So I don't know if I danced around the nuance of it enough, but
I think that when it comes to this stuff, yes, I think you're right. I think it comes down to what's your why? Why are you being curious about this? And curiosity, it is really about cultivating connection. It's about cultivating community, and curiosity is a pathway to doing that. And yes, there are, like, some people, they might be curious because they're information gathering in order to ensure that they can support their needs better, utilizing this person and what's going on in their life to be able to do so. And when you do that, you're dehumanizing that person because you're objectifying them and basically saying, this is someone I can use for my benefit. When you do that, you disconnect from their humanity, you disconnect from your humanity, you compromise both people's needs. So it's like, it's the why does matter here. And it could just be, I want to be curious because there have been so many times in my life where I wish people had been curious about what was going on for me, where I did something, behaved a certain way, did a certain thing, and I just wish someone had been curious about it rather than assuming what was going on. Like, we've all had those, like, the sky is falling, everything's coming down around us, and then you snap at somebody and they're like, well, somebody's a bitch. And it's like, somebody's at breaking point. Like, yes, I understand that I would have liked to have spoken to you differently in that moment. And if you understood what was going on in my life, you would probably give me some grace. And I think that so often, like, even if that curiosity is just, I want to be generous with other people in the way that I would like people to be generous with me. I would like people to consider that maybe that I want to consider that maybe other things that are going on. Like they say, you never know what's going on in somebody else's world. Because that's how I would like to be treated. And actually, generally, our communities would be deeper and more connected and stronger if more of us did this. And I think that it's like everything, like nuance. There's a reason it's my favorite word. And one of the hardest things in what we do is a lot of people want these concepts simplified. They want me to they wanted to distill it down to a single idea, and you can take that and you can apply it to everything. And it's like, that's not how life fucking works. Like, it's just not. It's not how needs work, because it does matter. Like, how are you doing it? Why are you doing it? In what way are you approaching it? Like, there's so many things that affect this. So I don't want people to go, oh God, well, I then can't be curious because what if I'm doing it in the bad way, kind of thing. And it's like, it's not as simple as that. And if you are, again, the way to kind of shift this, if this is something you are concerned about, because if you do this, you're compromising your own needs anyway, so it's not helpful for anyone, including yourself. The best way to shift this is to take care of your own needs, because if your needs are taken care of, you don't need to be curious about somebody else to get your needs met, because yours are taken care of. Like, and honestly, it's way easier, it's way less exhausting, it's way less stressful to take care of these needs for yourself than it is to be trying to pull the strings to get somebody else to do it for you. Like, that's a lot. A lot of us do it. It's not very effective. And a lot of the time it doesn't serve us particularly well to do it. But if you take care of those needs yourself, like, it's like everything, like, I mean, almost everything in life. If you want to shift how you are showing up, if you want, like, the starting point, the foundation, like we joke about, oh, like, big surprise, the first thing is always meeting your own needs. There's a reason for that, because our unmet needs can cause us to engage in behaviors that actually are quite detrimental to ourselves and other people around us. And so if we meet those needs, it takes them out of the equation. It means that's no longer like pulling the strings underneath the surface, because it's like, well, I've got no strings to pull. I don't need to pull any strings because I'm good. And then the more good that you are, the less you are reliant on the people around you to try to get your needs met because you haven't figured out how to do it for yourself. The more you can allow those relationships to be what they are, and the more likely you are to create genuine connection, because the connection becomes about connecting, not about, I need to have this connection because if I do this, they'll do this. And if they do that, then that will help me and that will feel good. And therefore, like, shortcut it, take the middleman out of the equation, learn how to do it for yourself. And then once you have those kind of connections, like, I'm never curious about Serena, because I'm like, well, like, if I find out what she's got going on, I could get her to do this and this, which works for me, and blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not helpful. That's not supportive. That's not good for our relationship. But I suspect subconsciously there was a point in my life where I was doing that a lot of the time, where my subconscious was constantly going, well, I need this and I need that, and I don't know where I'm going to get it. Oh, look, that person, like, oh, look, that, yeah, if they did this, that would take care of that. Okay, so I need to do this in order to get them to do that, in order that feels, it's exhausting. It really is. And so the best way to start to sort of shift that and to be like more kind of genuine and real in where that curiosity is coming from inside you is when your needs are met, and no longer is that curiosity or the consequence of that curiosity needed for you to be able to feel good about yourself or to feel like your needs are met.
And I think with the connection aspect of it, like when you start approaching things with curiosity and you stop making the assumptions, like the person on the other side can begin to feel seen, and they're more likely to, like, you're more likely to get more of the truth of them from that interaction. Like there's so many people, like Claire and I have said over and over again, and we will continue to say it, we are human, and sometimes we'll be going through the shit and people are like, well, don't you teach this shit? And they don't usually say shit, I just have the mouth of a fucking sailor, so they're like, don't you teach this? And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that life stops happening to me. Like you assume that everything is like perfect in our lives. No, we say we're students of our work because we are living this life
of our work. Yeah.
And that's one of those things when somebody's like, oh, like that must be challenging for you. I know that you're teaching this. Like how are you, how does this relate to you? And it's like, oh, so you do see that, like,
right. There's
humanity and humanness.
And even like one step further than that, not only do you feel seen, but you feel that somebody wants to see you, that they want to understand you better. And when somebody shows that they care about you and they care about your life and they're interested in you for no other reason, like I know that Serena doesn't take an interest in me because like there's a particular reason for, like, she takes an interest in my life because she cares about me and she cares about my life and she cares about what's going on. When somebody does that, and I've got other people in my life who do this as well, like my friend Sharona, where like they will come to me to ask, like, what do you need? How do you like what works for you? Like when you see somebody cares enough to want to learn about, to be curious about you, to be curious about the things that work for you, to be curious about the ways of doing relationship and friendship and all those things that work for you, versus someone coming in and assuming, well, everyone else I've ever known in my life, or I was in this friendship and this person like this, so I'm assuming you're going to like the same thing. Or here's a better one. I like this, so I'm assuming you're going to like this too. Serena and I are incredibly different in the way that we work. Like if we've got stress going on, generally I'm the person who wants to talk about it. Serena's like, I'll see you in a week. I'm going to go and hide in a hole and process and do my thing, and then I'll come out and talk about it on the other side. So if I was trying to get Serena to do what I would want to do in that situation, if I was assuming that what was helpful for me would be helpful for her, I'd be constantly trying to get her to talk to me. And if I'm trying to get her to talk to me when she's like, oh, I just need some space right now, could everybody just back off and leave me alone, that's the opposite. So it's going to have a detrimental impact to our relationship. So the more curiosity you can come with and the less assumption, the better your relationships are going to be in every area of your life. Like the same thing with work. Like if you're like, what is the ways of working that work? Like we have the same thing. Like, I mean, in a lot of ways it's helpful because we have a friendship and we have a working relationship and we have a kind of also working relationship, but in a different field. Like there's lots of, we wear lots of hats with each other. Let's put it that way. And so like, my way of working and Serena's way of working, like even it can change moment to moment. Like there can be like a way you tend to do things. Like generally speaking, we're both neurospicy. So if we're in a conversation, we'll talk over each other and we'll finish each other's sentences and we'll jump in and blah, blah, blah. And most of the time that's fine. And then every now and again, it's like, I have to finish the thoughts in my head, because if I don't, it's not going to be there anymore. And this is going to go nowhere. And so again, being curious about like, okay, this, like, I can sense something's going on right now. Like, what do you need right now? Okay, you need me to just button it and let you finish your thoughts. Cool, I can do that in this moment. So it's like, and that continual constant curiosity about not assuming that you know, even the people that you know. It's so easy to be like, oh, I know how Serena is. This is what she needs right now. Oh, I know how Serena is. This is what's going to work best for her right now. Like, generally speaking, Serena is let's sequins and sparkles and all the things. And I knew this year was not going to be that kind of a birthday. Like, I would love to have done that, like be like this big like production, because that's how we do, generally speaking. But I knew that wasn't going to be what was going to work for Serena, because I've been curious about what she's got going on at the moment. So I'm like, it doesn't matter what I want to do. What matters is what she wants to do, because it's her celebration. So let's do what works for her in this moment. And continually like stepping out of that, like, it's so easy to assume that we know, especially with the people that we're closest to. And so continually bringing that curiosity, continually asking, continually like, oh, somebody's going, like, someone's processing some childhood stuff. Okay, they're going to respond very differently to how they would normally respond. Okay, curiosity, how do we approach that? How do we support with that? Somebody who's on vacation, very different situation to somebody who's under a deadline at work, to somebody who's going through grief, to somebody who's under a high stress situation because they're trying to move house. Like, so many things can change and affect things. And the more we can stay present in the moment and be curious about what's true in this moment versus assuming based on what our past experience is, whether that is with somebody we're very close and intimate with, or whether that's somebody who is a complete stranger, it's going to cultivate more connection. It's going to support everyone's needs in being better met. Anything you want to add before we finish up?
I think I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode, although I don't know what it's going to be this time. It's kind of fun when we figure out like what the next episode's going to be, and we can talk about it at the end of an episode. Your guess is as good as ours. You'll have to come back next week to find out. Between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard
and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, assumption tends to lead to disconnection, which tends to compromise everyone's needs, whereas curiosity can lead to connection, which often supports everyone's needs.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.